right. Let's start with praise to Manjushri. All right. Let's start with praise to Manjushri. Obeisance to Maguru and Protector Manjushri, who halted his heart to scriptural texts and both of these things or things as they are, whose understanding shines forth as the sun unclouded by defilements or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the patient love of Father for his only Son. All creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. Yours whose drunk with thunder proclamation of the Dhamma arises from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, whose powerful sword of wisdom hews out sufferings wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. And Tritya Manjushri, princely body, is endowed with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of a Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosed in my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so I might gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I gather through listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. All right, good afternoon. So one thing that I wanted to mention as we skipped over this 9th chapter, and we said that we're going to do it probably in a year or two, I'd say, at least a year or two. So we're towards the back end of this year, we're going to start with Lorig, awareness and knowers, and then we're going to study tenets, the different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy. And so I think that they are required for understanding the wisdom chapter, but I think that on top of that, there's some other material that we study through either the Heart Sutra, sometimes through the ornament, that makes it easier to then understand the 9th chapter. So when we're going to exactly study that, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, Geshe Dorje Damdru, that is now the director of the Tibet office at Delhi, is going to teach 3 consecutive weekends on the 9th chapter of Shantideva's Bodhisattva Way of Life, and he was his own as his translator. So he teaches in English. His English is very good. He also has done his own translation of the 9th chapter, which we've used before for a study program. So the translation is also very good. I think that clearer than some other translations that I've looked at before. So for those of you who are interested in receiving teachings on the 9th chapter, I will probably post a link for that tomorrow. Maybe I'll ask Kathy to keep you informed. So it's going to do 3. It's going to do teachings over 3 consecutive weekends during July, as far as I remember. Yeah, during a break. So that's one thing. Second thing is, so today Geshe continued with teachings from the dedication chapter, which I thought was interesting because on one hand, the dedication chapter is really simple or easy in the sense that we're making dedication for the sake of other living beings. But I think that as Geshe has demonstrated today, we can always top up a way of thinking of the dedication and turning to be like a really, I wouldn't say full-on practice, but profound and deep practice. So Geshe first of all mentioned today body and nature of mind. I thought that maybe I'll add a few words about the body and the nature of mind. So I see that Oli is connecting, so wait for a second. All right, so the body and the nature of mind. It is not very clear what exactly a body in the nature of mind is, in the sense that, of course, it is mentioned in different texts. So it is mentioned in the ornament of clear realization, the Abhisamalamkara. It is mentioned references to that through the commentaries to Maitreya's unsurpassed continuum, the sublime continuum. So there are references to, with respect to who attains a body in the nature of mind, at which stage it is attained, to some degree the causes for attaining a body in the nature of mind. But then there are not many distinctions that are made, it seems, in scripture with respect to what it is. And as Geshe said today, it's hard to come by a strict definition that defines very precisely what a body in the nature of mind is. So we can just, I can just add some details, a few details about a body in the nature of mind that maybe will make it slightly more clear. But I think that since it is not absolutely clear for me what the function is of a body of nature of mind and how it works, then of course cannot make it clear to others. So first off, we come across this presentation of a body of nature of mind. Actually, before we speak about that, Geshe mentioned the system of sutras and the system of mantra or tantra. So according to this traditional Buddhist presentation, we're looking at, let's say, the Hinayana system, the Hinayana path, the Theravada tradition that follows the Theravada teaching set. Then you have the Mahayana system, which consists of two streams. So there is the causal system, which is called the Sutra Mahayana. So it is presenting the Mahayana path from the point of view of the Sutra system. So from the point of view of the Sutra system, we enter into the Mahayana path by developing bodhicitta. Then we practice over 3 great countless eons, covering the 5 paths, from the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and finally the path of normal learning. That takes us, to get to the path of normal learning, it will take us 3 great countless eons. So the reference to a body in the nature of mind begins with this path, the causal system of the Sutra Mahayana, or the Mahayana Sutras. Then within the Mahayana system, we have the Tantric system, right? So Tantra is is part of the Mahayana, and it is also called the resultant system. So the Sutra system of the Mahayana is the causal system. The Vajrayana, the Tantra, is the resultant system. So in Tantra, but particularly in Hatha Yoga Tantra, we speak about an illusory body, and Geshe mentioned it today. So the illusory body, we can call it, I think, a mental body or a body in the nature of mind. And the presentation in Hatha Yoga Tantra is very detailed. It is very precise, and also the techniques for us, telling us how to cultivate that, are detailed in a very precise way, right? So we speak about in Hatha Yoga Tantra, practicing the generation stage and then the completion stage. Within the completion stage, we have isolation of body, isolation of speech, isolation of mind, then clear light, and then illusory body. So the stages are delineated in a very clear way. It's not that clear in the sutra system of the Mahayana. So it seems that what we have is the Theravada system, that it seems it doesn't teach, at least according to the texts that are available to us, that doesn't teach that, it seems, maybe at all, or maybe there are references to that, but I don't know. Then we have the sutra system of the Mahayana. This is where we start to speak about a body in the nature of mind. And then we have Hatha Yoga Tantra with a very extensive explanation of the illusory body. Now, what are the issues, or why do we have to speak about the body in the nature of mind? In the Mahayana Sutra system, it is said that when bodhisattvas attain the path of seeing, the abode of the body transforms. Now, the word in Tibetan for abode, the word is nek, can also mean the state, right? So the state of the body transforms, the abode of the body transforms. And from the path of seeing, bodhisattvas attain what is called a body in the nature of mind. So this presentation then implies that in the Hinayana system, a body in the nature of mind is not achieved. Now, whether it is necessarily not achieved, it is not really said so. Actually, you can say that probably, according to previous discussions that we have with some of the geshes, maybe we can say that some Hinayana arhats can attain a body in the nature of mind. Now, to start wondering what's the deal with the body in the nature of mind, why would you attain a body in the nature of mind? We can look at our body. So the process of being born into a body like that, apart from the physiological process of our parents, the sperm and ovum that came from a father and mother, that's a physiological explanation. But then from the Buddhist point of view, to be born in a body like that, which is called a body in the nature of suffering, we need to have created the karma for that before, right? So karma and afflictions are the things that contribute towards being born in a body like this. So we have created, if we look at that from the viewpoint of the 12 links of dependent arising, then we have the first link, beginningless ignorance. Then the second link, formative actions or formations, in which we create projecting actions that project another rebirth in samsara. Then we place an imprint or a seed upon a mental continuum, and when the conditions are ripe, at some point at the end of this life or at the end of a future life, a future rebirth, craving and grasping, which are two forms of attachment, will activate this karmic seed. And the activation will then project us to another state of rebirth, which means that being born in a body like that is also controlled by karma and afflictions. So then when we look at what happens to different types of practitioners, so we have, in drawing from the ornaments, the ornament of clear realization, what happens to Hinayana practitioners and what happens to bodhisattvas. According to the presentation of the ornament of clear realization, when Hinayanists attain the state of liberation, they do it kind of it's just a general explanation. They do it on the basis of body like this. A body which is that we go through karma and afflictions. So first of all, and as the ornament is taught from the viewpoint of the Madhyamika Svatantrika philosophy, in Buddhist philosophy, it is said that first of all, what is attained is nirvana with remainder, in which hearers and sorrow to realize that arhats have eliminated karma and afflictions, but the remainder is the body that they've had before, a body that was formed by karma and afflictions. So first of all, there's nirvana with remainder, and then at some point this body dies, and then Hinayana arhats, hearers and sorrow to realizes, since they have abandoned karma and afflictions, they don't have to take another body like this. So does it mean that they are not allowed to be born in any body whatsoever? It seems that there is no clear answer to that. I think that according to previous discussions that we had before, maybe you can say that if they do choose to take a rebirth in a body, it doesn't have to be a body like this, which is a body of true suffering. So the body that they will have could be a body in the nature of mind. But to explain that in a kind of more in a clear way, we can look at the Bodhisattva path. So for Bodhisattvas, it takes, according to the sutra system, the Mahayana sutra system, it takes a very long time to attain the state of Buddha. So along the path of accumulation and the path of preparation, Bodhisattvas spend one great countless eons in accumulating the collections, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom, which are required for attaining the next path, which are the path of seeing. So with the path of seeing, they have a perceptual, a direct realization of emptiness. So over the path of seeing and the path of meditation, they practice for 2 great countless eons in order to then become a Buddha. So it takes a very long time. And along the stages that they need to progress in order to attain the state of enlightenment, they go through the 10 Bodhisattva grounds. So the first bhumi, the second bhumi, all the way to the 7th bhumi, including the 7th ground. And once they complete the 7th ground and move on to the 8th ground, they've completely eliminated their afflictions, afflictive obscurations. So then they still need to eliminate cognitive obscurations in order to become Buddhas. So they do that along the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground. So for 2 great countless eons, they continue to practice. But then they do no longer create causes for being born in a body that is a body of true suffering. So from the path of seeing, they start to create actions which are no longer controlled, contaminated actions. So contaminated actions are actions that we create, which are motivated by ignorance. Bodhisattvas from the path of seeing do no longer create contaminated actions. They create actions which are called uncontaminated, which means that they are not contaminated by ignorance. So it is said that there are 2 factors that cause bodhisattvas to attain a body. 2 causes that cause bodhisattvas to attain a body in the nature of mind. The first cause is uncontaminated actions that bodhisattvas create. And the second cause is called the grounds of the imprints of ignorance. So for us, when we take a rebirth in a body like that, we do that under the power of karma and ignorance. So karma and afflictive states of mind, ignorance, anger, attachment, and so forth. This is how we take a rebirth. Bodhisattvas, particularly Arya Bodhisattvas, instead of karma or contaminated karma and afflictions, they have uncontaminated karma and the grounds of the imprints of ignorance. But those two factors replace karma and afflictions, uncontaminated karma and the grounds of the imprints of ignorance. And the grounds of the imprints of ignorance means that rather than taking a rebirth controlled by anger, attachment, ignorance, and so forth, rather than these are the states of mind that bring about a rebirth, the state of mind that brings about a rebirth is influenced by cognitive obscurations, but not by afflictive obscurations. So that's one reference that we can, or one detail that we can add to the mix with respect to a body in the nature of mind. The causes are different. The 2 causes for a body in the nature of mind are uncontaminated actions and the grounds of the imprints of ignorance. Now, another detail that we can add to that is that it seems that at some point Geshe Jiaming, that spoke about it before, said that in general it is stated that bodhisattvas from the path of seeing attain a body in the nature of mind. But they still need to exert effort in doing so. It's not that all of a sudden they attain that. So they need to exert effort, to put effort into attaining a body in the nature of mind. And they have, of course, a lot of time. Still, they have 2 great countless eons in order to be able to do that, right? So they can do that, and this transformation into a body in the nature of mind starts from the path of seeing. So the question is it that this body transforms into a body in the nature of mind, or is it something else? So when we spoke about it before, we said that it's not that this body transforms. It's rather that on the basis of this body, bodhisattvas start to develop a body in the nature of mind, which means that there's this coarse body that is there. And then there's another body that is a subtle body, that is a body in the nature of mind that can travel with bodhisattvas wherever they're at. And I think that one of the reasons why we speak about a body in the nature of mind is when we think about a body of Buddha. So the body of Buddha, Buddhas have different bodies. One of them is called the Rupakaya, the form body. So the form body of a Buddha has also one part of it, let's say, is a physical body. If you wonder, how did bodhisattvas attain this physical, how do Buddhas develop the body that they have? If we say that, for example, I practice in order to become Buddha, and now I have this body, which is now 50 years old. And let's say that on the basis of this body, I become Buddha. It's a little bit awkward in saying that this body that came from a contaminated state, this body was, first of all, came from the sperm and ovum of my father and mother, and also it came from karma and afflictions. It is strange to say that this body becomes a Buddha body. Like a contaminated body becomes an uncontaminated body of Buddha. There are no contaminations whatsoever in the state of Buddha. So this body does not become a Buddha body. So instead, what happens is that bodhisattvas attain a body in the nature of mind. The body in the nature of mind is forged by uncontaminated actions and the grounds of the imprint of ignorance. So at least in terms of what does become a Buddha body, it makes sense that this body is left behind. And then what does continue is the body in the nature of mind. Still, there's still debate with respect to that, because we can consider this body as an object of abandonment. This is something that we need to abandon in order to become Buddha. Also, a body in the nature of mind that bodhisattvas have also needs to be abandoned, because it is it was formed by the grounds of the imprints of ignorance and uncontaminated actions. And a Buddha is free from all actions. A Buddha has abandoned all karmas, and also has abandoned the grounds of the imprints of ignorance. But still, this body is true suffering, and the body in the nature of mind is not true suffering. So the presentation that bodhisattvas that have a body in the nature of mind can on that basis attain the state of Buddhahood because they have a body that is not true suffering fits better than the presentation, than the assertion that if I practice and I become a Buddha, then this body, which is a body of true suffering, becomes a Buddha body, right? So this body of true suffering cannot transform to be a Buddha body. It's rather that the body of nature of mind that I develop at some point on the basis of having a body such as this will become a Buddha body. So then this body in the nature of mind is it mind? Is a mental body, is it mind? That's the next thing that we can add into this discussion. So the body in the nature of mind is not mind, but in the nature of mind is that it is one entity with the mind. And to be more precise, according to the Prasangika school of thought, the Madhyamika Prasangika school of thought, it is form, right? So it is form, but it is not matter. Now, matter is stuff which is atomically established, which means that it is established from particles. So there is a discussion amongst different schools of thought with respect to form and matter. So from the Madhyamika Prasangika, down from the Madhyamika Prasangika, it is schools of thought such as the Madhyamika Svatantrika. Form and matter are the same thing, they're synonymous. The Madhyamika Prasangika says that they're not. So for example, something that is form and not matter is a Buddha body or a Buddha form body. It is form, but it is not established from particles. So similarly, a body in the nature of mind is form, but it is not made of particles. Jason is asking, why does it take so long after developing a direct realization of emptiness to become enlightened? Is it because the seeds on the mind stream are beginningless? Well, I think that you have to look at, I think that first of all, kind of, it takes long because first of all, this is what scripture says, that it takes long, but it's not just because scripture says. I think that when you look at the objects of abandonment that are abandoned along the Bodhisattva bhumis, the Bodhisattva grounds, then we begin with a path of seeing. On the path of seeing, the intellectually acquired seeds of the afflictions are abandoned, which means that first of all, you deal with the cause levels. So at the beginning of the path of seeing, the perceptual realization of emptiness has the strength to abandon only the first level of obscurations, the intellectually acquired one. Then from the second ground, or you can say that from the end of the first ground onward, going into the second ground, all the way up to the seventh ground, and including the seventh ground, we abandon more and more subtle levels of innate afflictive obscurations. So we have to do it in stages, it seems, because the obscurations have more subtle, they go into a more subtle and subtle form. First of all, we can rid ourselves of coarse levels of obscurations. And only once we remove coarse levels, we can deal with subtle levels. In order to remove coarse levels of obscurations, we need to have enough merit and enough wisdom. So when you look at the progression along the Bodhisattva grounds, then we have what is called an uninterrupted path and a liberated path. Uninterrupted path abandons a certain portion of obscurations, and the liberated path is when those obscurations have been abandoned. So to generate an uninterrupted path, you need to have a lot of merit and a lot of wisdom. So along the progression of the 10 grounds, you have parts in which you're in meditative equipoise, so you're abandoning the afflictions with an uninterrupted path, or you have abandoned the afflictions with a liberated path. Then you arise from your equipoise, and you do that in order to again accumulate merit and accumulate wisdom that will be strong enough, that will make your mind strong enough to abandon the next level of obscuration. So that's with afflictive obscurations. And then you have finished removing afflictive obscurations once you attend the 8th ground. And then on the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground, we still need to abandon cognitive obscurations, the imprints of ignorance. So they are much more subtle than the afflictions. So they are divided into a few cycles, and they're abandoned along the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground. So just because I think they go into a more subtle form, and as I think that as you mentioned, Jason, also they've been there since beginningless time, and maybe just that's why it takes a lot of effort and a lot of accumulation. So the strength of the realization is small at the start and gets stronger as you clean the mind stream and collect merit. Yeah, actually, when you look at the ornament of clear realization, and then you can say a summation of that, which is a presentation of grounds and paths or salam. One of the sections of salam, grounds and paths, is explaining the way that the obscurations are being abandoned. So it is said that each portion of obscurations has a corresponding antidote, a corresponding uninterrupted path. So the great, so first of all, they are divided into different cycles: the great, the medium, and the small. So the small antidote abandons great obscurations, in a sense that it takes, let's say, a small antidote to abandon something that is coarse, but it takes a great antidote in order to abandon something that is subtle. So those So the different cycles that correspond to different uninterrupted paths that we generate in the mind stream as we move through those different bhumis are great, middling, and small, corresponding to great obscurations, middling obscurations, and more simple obscurations or weak obscurations. So you're correct about it, Jace. Attending a mental body. So then also, one other thing that I wanted to mention with respect to attending a mental body. One thing that Geshe-la mentioned today is that attending a mental body, a body in the nature of mind, is done on the basis of this body, which means that when we say that the abode or the state of the body changes, it means that the body of nature of mind is established here, where the body is. It's not that we need to go somewhere else to establish the body. It's not that we need to rid ourselves of this body and go somewhere else to get a body in the nature of mind. Since it is in the nature of mind, all right, and it is form, but it is not matter, it is not atomically established, it can go together with the mind wherever the mind goes. So this is the presentation that you get in the Sutra, Mahayana Sutra system. It doesn't give us a lot to work with. You know, this is more or less what you find. Probably when you study in great details, or when you study with those kind of great scholars, they might be able to give you more details about it, much more than I can. But there are still certain issues that you can come up with. Like, for example, is there substance to a body of nature of mind? If there is a substance, if there is a substantial continuum to that, what is that substance? Is it form? Is it matter? Is it atoms? It is the substance of mind. What is it? At least from the sutra system, it's not very clear. From the point of view of Tantra, it is clear because then we speak about an illusory body. So from the point of view of Tantra, and this is what Geshe-la spoke of today, we have mind and wind, which are a single entity. So our mind is that which is clear and knowing, right? So it's an entity that knows, a cognitive entity. And then it has the aspect movement, which is responsible for the direction that the mind turns to in engaging objects. So from the point of view of Tantra, we, particularly Hatha Yoga Tantra, we practice the generation stage, in which we, through the force of our meditation, we're trying to, and working with a system of channels and drops and wind energy. Through the power of meditation, we're trying to make the mind enter, the minds and the winds together with them. Actually, we speak about mainly the winds, enter, abide, and dissolve into the central channel by the force of the meditation. So we're making the winds enter, abide, and dissolve into the central channel by the force of our meditation. And then we're trying to make them descend or ascend into the heart area of the central channel to dissolve into what we call the indestructible drop. So that through the force of our meditation, we can make manifest the extremely subtle wind and mind that exists in our continuum since time without beginning and up until now. And for us, the extremely subtle wind and mind is what becomes manifest only at the time of death, when we die through the power of our karma. So we're trying to emulate that through the process of meditation so that we can make use of that extremely subtle wind and mind to realize emptiness and to purify all our obscurations. So we're making manifest an extremely subtle mind. It comes together with wind. And from the point of view of Hatha Yoga Tantra, we, through the force of our meditation on a deity practice, we make the wind arise in a certain form that has arms and legs and faces and so forth. So you can call it a mental body, in that through the force of meditation, using deity meditation, in which you generate for a very long time that strong intention to arise as a deity. So your mind becomes the mind of a deity. And the body of deity is made of the wind that supports the consciousness. So you can call it also a mental body. It is a body that comes together with the mind. It is single entity with the mind. So why are we speaking about all these complicated issues? We speak about it because Geshe-la added today with the dedication chapter, the verses that we've covered today in the dedication chapter. Let's see, it's not this one, sorry. There it is. So today we've covered the dedicating so that such suffering may quickly be pacified, dedicating so that universal suffering of the hell realms may be pacified, pacifying the suffering of the cold hells, dedicating so that the suffering of the hot hells may be pacified, and so forth. So altogether, Geshe-la says that you can dedicate it in general. It seems that the assertion is that you can dedicate it in general so that may sentient beings not experience any of the suffering of the hells. And this is what Khenpo Kumpel says when he speaks about this dedication. So he says in page 404, and then continuing on with page 401. So it says, when we dedicate virtue to the deliverance of hell beings from the sufferings, we should think as follows. In all the universal systems lying in the 10 directions, evil actions or negative actions are perpetrated because of anger and the other defilements. The karmic effect is the unbounded pain of heat and cold, and such torments is being cut and dismembered in the various realms of hell. We should make the wish that by the strength of our positive actions, the other environment is experienced by all the denizens of hell be completely purified and become like the western pure field of Sukhavati, when even the word pain and suffering have no existence, and where all is made of precious substances, where everything is spacious and mild. Let all the beings that dwell in hell be purified. May Yama, the Lord of Death, become the Buddha Amitabha. May his workers become the Buddha's 8 close sons, Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani, and the rest. May the dwellers in the hells be transformed into practitioners of the Mahayana. Bodhisattvas adorned with the major and minor monks of enlightenment. This is an interesting statement. Can bodhisattvas be adorned with the major marks and minor signs? It seems that this is something that only a Buddha's body is adorned with. Anyway, so may they have perfect happiness and joy, and without. Yeah, I think that maybe you can say that when bodhisattvas practice, their body at some point needs to become a body of Buddha. So rather than all those major marks and minor signs all of a sudden appearing when you become Buddha, they probably develop similitudes of those in stages of those major marks and minor signs, and they're completed when you become Buddha. Geshe-la mentioned a few days ago that this is a detailed explanation of those major marks and minor signs is found in the 8th chapter of the Ornament for Clear Realization. So maybe in the future, it'd be actually pretty cool to get a commentary on that. Anyway, and without travail, may they receive whatever they wish. So it says that the general dedication that we engage with is dedicating for them to be free from the suffering of cold hells, hot hells, adjoining hells, temporary hells, and so forth, to be free from all these sufferings, but also to attain a state of happiness and bliss. As it says here, to attain Amitabha's pure land, Sukhavati. So even the word pain and suffering is not heard in that realm of existence. So in general, we can dedicate it in this way. But Geshe-la went a step further. It says that actually, if we understand what is entailed in experiencing no suffering, then we wish them to develop the stages by which they attain a body that is not a body of true suffering. So to attain a body that is not true suffering is to attain a body in the nature of mind, or to attain, from the perspective of Tantra, to attain an illusory body. So basically, it seems that what we wish all living beings is to become bodhisattvas. That's the implication. We wish all of them to become bodhisattvas. We wish all of them to become Arya bodhisattvas, so that they attain a body in the nature of mind. And the body in the nature of mind does not experience pain. It does not experience suffering. So it's pretty cool to add into our dedication. And then also, I thought of, in line with what we said in the previous week, in adding into the dedication, kind of this strong force of the 4 attributes that we add to our dedication, right? So we have the attribute of aspiration and prayer and commitment and supplication, in which we set up, for example, in relation to the verses that we've covered today. May those wretched due to cold obtain warmth. How wonderful if those wretched due to cold obtain warmth. And the commitment, I will make those wretched due to cold obtain warmth. Please, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and gurus of all the 10 directions and so forth, please bless me so I'll be able to make all those wretched due to cold obtain warmth. Right? So the more time we have to meditate on that dedication, the more we can increase our ability to care for others in this way. And I say it like that because then in Khenpo Kumpen's presentation, it says, may all, in relation to this line, may all, or in relation to verse 5, may all those who do evil, negative actions, impelled by the power of their anger, abandon the wickedness, and may they truly perform the practice that will bring about their rebirth in Sukhavati, the pure land of Amitabha, the visualization of Buddha Amitabha. So when it says, may they surely perform the practice that will bring about the rebirth in Sukhavati, the practice is the visualization of Buddha Amitabha and the recitation of his name. May all living beings be able to practice the visualization of Amitabha. This is how we should meditate on compassion and loving kindness, wishing that all beings be free from suffering and its causes, and that they be endowed with happiness in the causes of the same. In brief, we should meditate, taking upon ourselves the heat and cold and all other sufferings of the hell realms. We should confess the evil actions that we ourselves have perpetrated, for these are the causes of hell, and we should resolve never to commit them again, recognizing the fact that all those who have been born in hell were once our own parents. We should meditate on compassion for them, praying to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and invoking their assistance. Likewise, we should meditate on loving kindness and compassion. As previously explained, for all who are committing negative actions, actions that will bring them to rebirth in the hell realms, and we should recite prayers of good wishes for them. So it seems that in chapter number 8, we spoke a lot about the practice of equalizing, exchanging self with others. And then at the end, we spent just a little time on meditating on Tonglen, or giving and taking. So there were, as far as I remember, a couple of verses, maybe 2 or 3 verses towards the end of the 8th chapter, which were parallel or connected with the practice of giving and taking. But here it seems, according to this commentary of Khenpo Kumpen's, it seems that we can just as well use a lot of chapter number 10 in order to integrate it into the practice of giving and taking, right? So we think of the suffering of the cold hells and the hot hells, and in developing compassion, loving kindness to others, we think that we're taking all the suffering upon ourselves, freeing others from the suffering, and giving them all the conditions that are conducive for example, practicing Buddha Amitabha and the recitation of his name, so that on that basis they can attain a rebirth in Sukhavati, free from physical suffering and mental pain. Or the other way around, physical pain and mental suffering. Any questions? When we look at I read through this commentary during the break, and there's a lot of the commentary goes over the different types of hells and how you can think of the different types of hot hells and cold hells and adjoining hells, and think about the long duration of suffering that sentient beings experience. It is similar to the presentation of the Lamrim that you find in the Lamrim Chemo. So for those of you who have the time and you also want to use that to make your meditation and dedication come to life, to be more lively, it's a good source to use. I'm wondering if you have any questions. So Jason says, can we say that the body and nature of mind is the same as the energy body, as an energy body? Jason, when you say an energy body, do you mean the wind body is in Hatha Yoga Tantra, or is it something else that you speak about? What's an energy body? Yes. So can we say that the body and nature of mind is the same as an energy body? Maybe. The thing is that in the sutra system, the Mahayana sutra system, when they speak about the body and nature of mind, they don't speak about the mind and wind being a single entity. This discussion of wind and mind is exclusive to Hatha Yoga Tantra. So Geshe said today that when we speak about wind as wind and mind being inseparable in entity, it's not just it's not that we speak just about the element of wind. We speak about what acts as a mount for the consciousness and also is responsible for the movement of the mind. So can we call it an energy body? I think that we can call it an energy body. And also when you look at the beginning of the commentary on Hatha Yoga Tantra, as far as I remember, there's a different delineation of different subtleties of the body. So there's the coarse body, then there's the subtle body, and there's the extremely subtle body. And as far as I remember, might be mistaken with respect to it, but as far as I remember, the extremely subtle body was the wind element of the extremely subtle mind. That's the extremely subtle body. That's, in that sense, you can call it an energy body. But I think that probably we can call it an energy body. In scripture, it is called the wind. It's called wind, extremely subtle body. And that's the substantial cause for the illusory body. Any other questions? Bhumi. Yeah. So the 10 Bodhisattva, so in English, we call it the 10 Bodhisattva grounds. They can also call the 10 Bodhisattva levels. In Sanskrit, they're called Bhumi. Yeah, the Bodhisattva Bhumis. Bhumi. Oh, yeah. All right. So there's a word in Tibetan called Bhum, and Bhum is the meaning of Bhum is 100,000. So when you do your preliminary practices or when you do a certain retreats, then you should do, the standard is to do 100,000 repetition of a particular thing. So Bhum. Yeah, but so Bhum is in Tibetan and Bhum is Sanskrit. So they mean completely different things. All right. Let's leave it here for now then. Due to this version, I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigrated beings without exception to that state. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that the reason not incline but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subduer moral way, who says in the manifold bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjuna's victorious doctrine. O masterfully accomplished this magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, protector of myself and others, your disciples. Please, please live long. Thank you. Who would have known that we, in studying the 10th chapter, which is supposed to be like a really simple chapter, was discussing things that are really heavy loaded. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Totally.